Hello, everyone, and welcome to this fall semester of EET 250. I'm going to be your instructor for this semester. My name is Darian Hudson. I wanted to start the semester off with this quick video going over some introductory material to the course, syllabus, contact information, and other things, a few which have historically been issues for students and whatnot, and just make sure everyone starts off the semester on the right foot. So without further ado, we'll get into it. Starting off here, this is what your screen should look like once you log into Blackboard, with the exception of the link right above this Start Here folder for this video that you're currently watching. You'll notice, scrolling through here, that you can see all the modules that we'll be doing this semester. Each module is roughly 2 weeks to complete. So you'll notice some of them aren't currently available. If you hover over content isn't available there, it will give you a date which will be starting that module. And again, those are 2 weeks in length, so you can somewhat plan accordingly. The first module is different in that until you complete the syllabus quiz found in this folder, you also will not be able to access it. You can see that I am able to access that because I've already completed the quiz in this little student view I have in Blackboard, but we'll get into more detail on that in a little bit. Starting off here in the Start Here folder, the first thing I wanted to go over is the course overview and about this course. Now, there's some verbiage in here that will kind of give you some information regarding electrical licensing and adoption of the code, which we'll also be talking about in a little bit more detail in one of our lecture videos. But the information that I wanted to communicate is that the overall goal of this course is that once you've completed the course, you will be roughly ready to complete a journeyman level license exam, whether that be here in Kentucky or another similar state. A secondary goal of the course is to go over some of the code material that's going to be applicable once you enter the workforce and have completed your studies here, or if you're doing those workforce options concurrently with your studies. None of that information is present here, which was one of the reasons I wanted to communicate it. Now, the most important item I wanted to go over is the syllabus as well as the course schedule, which can be found under the syllabus and schedule option here. And if we click on the syllabus, you also have a download option if you'd like to keep a copy of that. I just want to go through some of the information in the syllabus, some contact information, how the course is going to work, expectations of the course, and so on and so forth. So starting off here, if my email address is provided, email is the way to reach out to me initially at any point in the course. So if you ever need to reach me, you will need to do so using email, and you specifically will need to use your KCTCS email address to do so. Furthermore, please do not use this email option that is native to Blackboard. You do need to actually go to Outlook and use the new email option in Outlook to send an email. This is so that we can make sure that you're including in the subject line the necessary information to reach out, and so that once I receive the email, it's formatted in a certain way. Students who have used this option before have run into some issues with getting feedback, as well as me being able to interpret the email. So that is the expectation of how you'll be reaching out for the semester. Once you have reached out to me through email, however, we do have the option of setting up Teams or Zoom's meeting, or scheduling just a simple phone call, or other ways. But again, initially, you should always be sending an email using your KCTCS email address through Outlook to begin that conversation. Now, moving on from there, I also wanted to address the course material. This is the first semester that we're going to be using the 2023 NEC as our course book. That's because before the end of the year, Kentucky has the goal of adopting the 2023 NEC, and also we're seeing a large increase in other states that are adopting it. I believe we're close to around 20 or so states that have adopted the 2023 or plan on adopting it. So we will be switching from the 2017, which we've always used historically, to the 2023 this year. You will need to purchase a physical copy of the NEC. Do not buy a digital copy. You need to buy a paperback copy. Also, I do not recommend buying a 3-ring version or the handbook. You will just want this basic version here that you can find with this ISBN numbers. The reason for that is A, I will be using the regular paper version as a reference for all the lectures, but B, when and if you go to attempt your exam to get a license, that is the only version of the NEC that you will be able to bring in. You can't bring a loose 3-ring version or the handbook. So when we're doing our highlights and studying throughout the course in the book, it just makes the most sense to do that. Additionally, you do also have an optional textbook that I recommend if you're struggling. If you're not struggling, then not really any point to it. However, this book, Understanding the National Electrical Code, can be helpful again if you find yourself struggling a little bit and want some extra resources. That would be one available textbook that will help you. Moving on to the assignments that we'll have during the course. The first is the attendance verification assignment found in the Start Here folder. That is the syllabus exam that I referenced earlier. Very straightforward and easy exam to complete. We'll go over that in a second. However, you do need to complete that by the due date that's here in the syllabus to get counted as present for the course. And again, beyond that, you also need to complete it in order to access the first module's content. That is obviously a unique assignment just for the first week. Beyond that, every week in the course is more or less going to be the same, in that once you start the module, you will have some reading and lectures to do, after which you will have a lecture review assignment. And again, I'll show all this in the Module 1 folder. For the lecture review assignment, you'll have 2 attempts to take that, and your best score will be used for your grade calculation in Blackboard. You'll also have a module practice exam to do, which will be kind of like a short mock final for the module with a little bit longer time limit to it. You'll have unlimited attempts to do that, again with your best score being used in Blackboard for final calculation. Each module will then end with a 25 question timed exam, and you will only have 1 attempt at that exam. Now again, the practice exam found in each module will be somewhat similar to the way that exam will be, and will give you a good indicator of how you're likely to do on the exam. If you're getting 100% on the practice exam, you're probably going to do pretty well on the final. The module exams are also worth, as you can see down here in your grade table, the largest percentage of your grade in the course, followed only by the midterm and final. We will be completing the midterm during Module 4, which will be about halfway through the course, and the final will be due the last week of course. And again, we'll be going over that once we look at the schedule there. Again, every module is laid out that same way, just with the midterm and final being in their respective modules. Now, a very important note for the course regarding all of your assignments is the makeup and late work policy. We do not do any makeup work or late work in the course. If for any reason you miss an assignment, you will not get an opportunity to make up that assignment. Most assignments in the course, you will have a full 2 weeks to be able to complete them. The only assignments that are less than that will be the lecture reviews. You get 1 week to complete those, and as you can see, they are worth a smaller percentage of your grade at that. For the practice exams, as well as the module exams, the midterm, and the finals, you have a minimum of 2 weeks to complete those. So you will need to plan accordingly and make out your schedule in order to account for that. If you're in a situation where something abrupt or unlikely may come up, then I would recommend completing those earlier in case that does come up, because again, there will be no opportunities for late work or makeup work, even if it's only an hour late. I will briefly make a note of a situation we've had historically in the past for these timed exams. Is that if you start that exam very close to the due date, which will be 11:59 p.m. on Sunday nights, if you start that relatively close to that, say 20 minutes before, Blackboard will show that as being submitted late, and there is a chance that it will automatically grade the assignment as 0 since Blackboard views it as being turned in late. If that does happen, just reach out to me. I do not consider that late work. As long as you opened the assignment and started on it prior to that due time, I will accept that. However, if you start the assignment after that due time / date, it will be late and will not be accepted. Beyond that, a lot of this is just DCTC standard information. One of the content items to point out, again, back to the course communication, however, is the email policy. I do want for you to include the course name and number, which for this course would be EET 250, National Electrical Code, in the subject line of your email. Most semesters I am teaching multiple courses within the electrical technology program. So if you only include, say, module 1 exam or lecture review in the subject line, I don't know which course you're I don't know what course you're referring to, and it just creates unnecessary communication. So I do ask at a minimum that you include that. It is also worth noting 2 other aspects of communication is number 1, you can expect a response within 48 hours of receiving the email. If you wait until a Thursday to send an email, however, I may not respond until the following Monday, and anything that you send on a Friday will be responded to at the latest the following Tuesday. So weekends do not account for that communication policy. Now, that being said, almost all assignments in the course are due on Sunday nights, which again are hours that you will not receive communication back from me in. I have considered making all the assignments due on Friday nights to avoid that historically, but the students I've asked about that have said they would prefer for it to remain due on Sundays. But that being said, you do not need to wait until the Friday of the week the assignment is due to begin looking at material, because then you may end up with questions about the material and not be able to receive a reply to them before the exam is due. Again, that's part of why you get 2 weeks for the major assignments in the course, is that hopefully you'll be studying, looking at the lectures, and reading the first week, which during the second week will allow for plenty of time for you to reach out with any kind of questions, concerns, issues you may have before the exams are due. The second communication item here is the expectation for how communication will be presented. This is a professional course, and this is to prep you to go into the work environment. As such, I treat communication in this as if we were in the situation that I were your employer and you were my employee. So it goes without saying, any kind of communication should be professional, polite, and again, just those items. It's not per se that I expect some type of exact process to be followed for the way that you ask questions or anything of that nature. But again, if you approach any communication you send with that mindset and that this is essentially a work environment, you should be fine. Now that does move me over to a very important section here, which is this teaching philosophy / policy section. I'm not going to read this verbatim, although you should, but I'm going to summarize this as well as provide some background information. One of the things that we do here at Bluegrass Community Technical College is that we have a workforce advisory board for each of the programs that we offer. What that Workforce Advisory Board is a group of professionals slash management slash owners of various companies. Those companies being some of or the top of companies that our students would prospectively want to go and work with once they complete our program. The point of that board is so that those representatives of the workforce community can voice insights into what they would like to see out of the program, what skills that we could instill in our students and teach them so that they're ready for the workforce. For the past 2 years that has been going on, the number one piece of feedback that we've received within the electrical program is that our prospective employers would like to see our students have an increase in soft skills. What I mean by soft skills are those being, showing up to work on time, professionalism, how to communicate with a customer, accepting responsibility, and being able to self-manage, things of that nature. As both an employer within the workforce as well as an instructor within this program, I take that feedback very seriously, and that's why on some of these policies, I'm very strict the way that I am. So, for instance, the no late work. If your employer assigns you an assignment and it needs to be done by a certain date, you can't just go over that date and that be fine. There are going to be consequences for that. If your employer tells you to use your employee email address to send out quotes or to communicate with other team members, you have to follow those guidelines and do as they ask you to. If you get upset with a coworker and speak with them in an inappropriate manner, or the same for your boss or manager, there will be consequences for that. So again, the goal of this course is to reflect that and hopefully help prepare you all for the actual workforce. Because again, for me anyway, the intent of all of the course for all of my students is to prepare you for a career in the workforce once you complete school here. And again, to reiterate that point, last sentence here that I will point out is I'm here for your success in the sense of these policies, again, are not intended to be difficult just for the sake of being difficult, and I don't ask you to do things just to ask you to do them. There is purpose for everything in the course, which again is my best attempt at helping you in the long run. Now, moving on from that, again, please make sure that you pay attention to the course schedule we see here. The course schedule supersedes information anywhere else, meaning if Blackboard shows you a specific due date for an assignment and it conflicts with this schedule, you need to go by this schedule. If Blackboard shows a different due date and it's creating an issue with access or something to that effect, please reach out to me and let me know. However, the course schedule is what we will be going by. Now, again, you can see for most assignments, you're going to get roughly 2 weeks to complete them, with the exception of the lecture reviews, which you will only have for 1 week. Also, pay attention to your midterm practice exam, as well as the midterm. And also notice here, during the final semester timeline, you'll actually receive 3 calendar weeks for those assignments, since we will be on break for one of those weeks. So if you choose so during your break, you could use that as study time and prep time, as the content will physically be open in Blackboard for a full 3 weeks. Another item to please pay attention to once we get to the end of the semester is the final due date. The semester final is the only assignment in the entire course that is not due on a Sunday night. Everything else will be due at Sunday night, 11:59 p.m., with the exception of the semester final, which will be due on a Friday night at 11:59 p.m. The reason for this is that I have to submit final grades on my end to the administrative faculty first thing on Monday of that following week. So I take the weekend to calculate those grades, go over everyone's grades to make sure there aren't any conflicts or something that looks out of place, and make sure everything's right before I submit them. So I need those extra days for the final, from the time the final's turned in until I submit grades on Monday, to be able to do that. So please don't forget that as we move towards the end of the semester. I'll likely be sending out a reminder / announcement on Blackboard to remind everyone of that Friday due date. But regardless, please do pay attention to that, because again, there will not be a late work or makeup option for that. Now, leaving the syllabus and moving on to the actual course material here to wrap up somewhat briefly, as I mentioned, you will need to complete this very last assignment in the Start Here folder, both for your attendance assignment to make sure that you're present for the course, but as well as to gain access to Module 1. You may have noticed on the calendar, in order to make schedule for the rest of the course, you will have your lecture review for Module 1 due the first week of the course. So you need to get on completing this Introduction Knowledge test as soon as possible so you can access Module 1. You will also need to score a 100% on the Introduction Knowledge test in order to access that material. Now, if we look at the lecture assignment here, the Introduction Knowledge test assignment, you can see, though, this is very straightforward. Essentially giving you a series of statements and asking you to acknowledge those and turn them in. These will do with some of the topics that, again, we've had issues with in the course previously. So this is just my way of making sure that you understand that course policy and that you agree to it. You could as easily as just copy this section, paste it in, and continue, and you would get full points on the assignment, which you do need to do, again, in order to access Module 1. There will be a space at the end of these questions where you can provide any type of feedback, questions that you may have, and whatnot. But if you do have an urgent question, again, I highly recommend you post it here, but also send it as an email. Once you've completed that and scored a 100% on it, again, you should be able to access Module 1. As you can see during the student preview, I have already completed that myself, just to make sure that it seems to work. Once you get into the module, this will be the basic layout of every module in the course. You can see that it starts off with a module overview. The overview will show essentially what we're aiming to do for that module. Now, one of the things to pay attention to, in addition to the module overview, is also the description on this text area right here. If you notice, for every module, it will give you the articles that we will be studying for that module. When it comes to the assignments within that module, when you're looking at them, the answers will come through one of those modules or chapters, with the exception of the midterm and the final, which can come from anywhere that we've studied in the course up to that point. So that's something that I see students miss a lot, is they don't notice these articles here and they go elsewhere trying to find answers. Now, after you've addressed the overview, you will have a playlist to the lectures for that module. This will not be what your Module 1 lecture looks like. I have to update these lectures for the 2023 codes for the 2017 versions. But you'll essentially just want to watch all the lectures for that module. You may need to re-watch them, and you may need to go back and watch them after you've done some reading on your own. But it is very highly recommended that you watch these in good detail in order to perform well in the course. Moving on from there, again, you'll complete your module lecture review assignment. Afterwards, again, this is essentially the first week of the module. If you need to wait until the second week to start it, for some of these items up here. As long as you complete the lecture review, that is fine. However, after that, you will be given a list of readings and self-study to do on your own. One of the items to keep in mind for this course is that this is a 4-credit course, and it is online. As the syllabus covers, that does mean that you're expected to do a large amount of self-study and self-reading on your own in order to be successful, and that it does have a very high hour commitment. You're more than likely going to commit 10 to 20 hours per week in this course in order to be successful in it. Aside from the reading, most of these will also have additional learning resources that can help with some of the specific topics that we covered within the lectures. Some of these learning resources, or most of them, will be for older versions of code, maybe the 2017 or 2020, but will be applicable to the 2023. The final items of each module will be the practice exam. Again, you will have unlimited attempts at that. And the final exam. Again, you will only have one attempt at this, and the module final exams are the largest portion of your grade. So you want to make sure that you are properly studied and prepped for those exams. But again, that's how the course will progress throughout the entire semester. Once you get the initial hang of how everything's laid out, you will just basically copy that every single module. Now, it is also worth noting that the material in the course is additive, meaning the things you learn in Module 1, you'll need in Module 2. The things you learn in Module 2, you'll need in 3, and so on and so forth. So it's very important that if you're struggling at first, you reach out for help or dedicate more time to make sure that you get the hang of that before we progress on through the course. Specifically, some of the last modules of the course, students tend to struggle on a good bit more compared to the start. Now, that's not to discourage anyone. I have seen students struggle at first and then switch around the other way and do really well at the end. But for what I can tell you from teaching this course for 5 years now, is that as long as you are completing the assignments and giving your best effort, you will have a low likelihood of failing the course. I've seen very few, if any, students not be able to pass the course as long as they were turning in their assignments and actually giving them their best attempt. Pretty much every student I've ever had fail the course, it's been because they just weren't turning in their assignments and keeping on top of their study. But that concludes this introduction to the course. Again, if you have any questions, any struggle or difficulty at first, I do highly recommend that you reach out to me for help. But again, as long as you're completing your assignments and staying on top of your studies, you will do well in the course and move on to the next thing. So look forward to working with everyone this semester. Please reach out with any issues.